standards in place. We don't have general protocols, and we'd like, within the European Union, and probably within the Istanbul Convention, which doesn't include this, we'd like to set up that kind of standard, these protocols that will make sure that we have statistics that would cover the whole of the European Union, all the countries of the European Union. The third problem we've identified is the different kinds of violence. And this is what we're going to be addressing in the second part of our conference. So we will be making progress on that, but it's clear that we can't just talk about violence against women. We have to talk about different kinds of violence, because new kinds of violence emerge and are emerging, some of them difficult to identify and to follow up on and to include in statistics. We're talking about violence through social networks, violence in the internet, vicarious violence, economic violence, different kinds of structural violence, and all of this complicates the job of collecting data that we need to make progress in identifying the problems and working on them. We're all convinced that the objective is clear. Zero violence is where we want to get to. And what we need to get there is all of these instruments, all of these mechanisms, and of course also the resources that will make it possible for women to feel safe. Only yesterday we had an opportunity in Pamplona, thanks to Mariana Javite. We had a chance to get to know one of these safe spaces, places open 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Any woman that feels a victim, that feels in danger or has been subject to violence can go to this shelter. The idea is that by 2024, all Spanish provinces should have one of these refuges, thanks to the Next Generation funds, thanks to the funds that we got from the European Union. But there's a lot that needs to be done in diagnosing the problems, in setting up protective instruments, in attention, in consciousness raising and education, and we'll carry on working on that. But I can assure you that we have been able to see today that there is a formidable alliance among the countries of the European Union in favor of equality and against all kinds of gender-based violence. And finally, I'm going to wind up now, Ms. Commissioner. I'd like to thank everyone for their understanding and support. This is my first experience in such a conference as this. I've seen a lot of intelligence, a lot of competence. I'm a bit daunted by that, but also a lot of understanding and empathy, in particular from Commissioner Dalli. So thank you very much. I'm going to give her the floor and will be available for any questions you may have to ask.
Thank you, esteemed members of the press, for being here. Thank you, Minister. Well, you said this is your first press conference on the subject, and congratulations, because you managed to cover a lot of ground. I want to extend also my gratitude to this Spanish presidency for elevating the area of equality in its intense agenda, and for treating several ongoing negotiations and sensitive topics during the 6-month period. As we gather here today, the battle against violence against women and domestic violence remains a shared commitment towards a gender-equal Europe, and has been marked by marked achievements. The Istanbul Convention's entry into force at the European Union level as of the 1st of October stands as a beacon of hope and progress. Furthermore, last March, the Commission initiative proposing a directive on combating violence against women and domestic violence shows our effort to this critical cause. Yet, as we stand on the eve of the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, we are reminded that, of course, our work is far from over. We must intensify our efforts in our fight against gender-based violence. And today's working session addresses two fundamental components in this direction: the collection of data, as you have already heard from the Minister, and the provision of specialized services for victims, to which I want to congratulate the Spanish government on the center, which will be opened soon, which is also a very important step in this direction of having good specialized services for victims. That it is good to see that European Union money is going for something so important, so essential, and which could actually save lives. So thank you for this. The significance of compiling comprehensive data cannot be overstated, as it empowers us to grasp the full magnitude and intricacy of this issue, thereby informing us on the efficiency of our policies. Specialized services for victims are equally essential, and survivors of violence may experience intimidation, as you know, secondary victimization, and recurring harm, which underscores the urgency of our mission to uphold their dignity and physical well-being. Facilities such as rape crisis centers and sexual violence referral points are vital in safeguarding the rights of victims and facilitating the access to justice. Considering this, the pending negotiations on the proposed directive, especially regarding the criminalization of rape, enhancement of victim compensation, and improvement of data collection, are of particular concern. Looking forward, we must also address the evolving landscape of violence, including the burgeoning threat of cyber violence. Our proposed definitions aim to standardize the criminalization of such acts across member states, reflecting the imperative of adapting to new challenges. As we progress towards the conclusion of our negotiations with the Council and the European Parliament, I know I can count on Spain to continue to push for the best legal standards possible. The unity and dedication of all member states are crucial as we strive to build a Europe that celebrates and protects all its citizens in their diversity. So I thank again the Spanish government for its commitment and support, and look forward to forging a safer Europe for all of us together. And I thank you.
Muchas gracias. Damos paso al turno de...
Thank you. So now there's an opportunity to ask questions.
Xavier Pita, de Radio Nacional. Me gustaría saber...
I'd like to know, talking about technology, if you have any approach to regulating artificial intelligence, addressing things that can be done against women with artificial intelligence. Well, of course, that's a huge threat. Artificial intelligence has burst into many areas of our life, and it will probably be a risk or maybe an opportunity. We'll have to see. But what I can say is that we are aware that new kinds of violence are arising more or less day by day. That's something very important. This is a ministerial meeting, but an informal one, and the idea in this meeting is to make progress on these issues. In the second session, we're going to be specifically looking at specific kinds of violence, violence in the net, and probably we'll also be addressing artificial intelligence as a mechanism that can lead to violence. I'd ask for some patience, because we can work on all of that and maybe work on some possible solutions. It's not easy, though.
Buenos días. Bienvenidas. Lo primero, soy Enrique Conde, de Diario...
I'm Enrique Conde from the Diario de Noticias from Navarra. What we heard about from President Ceviche about the 24-hour centre that's going to be opening in January, and also the work on protecting minors and work on child sexual abuse that we've also heard about. I'd like to hear something about what you can say about what's being done in Navarra to protect minors and to protect against sexual violence. I'd like to hear about your assessment of the initiatives underway. Well, we are here, and that's no accident. We're here putting this into the work of the Spanish presidency, and that in the week of the 23rd of November. And that's no accident. It's no accident that we're in Pamplona. We're aware that this is exemplary work, pioneer work on protecting women and protecting the families and children. Yesterday, we visited this pioneering centre, which is going to be exemplary for the other 51 centres that are going to be opening, we hope, by the end of next year. And we hope that there's a way ahead. The Commissioner can comment on this as well. As long as we can't eradicate violence against women, then we have to do all that we can, make everything available to women so that they can feel safe. So there's somewhere, some place they can go to where they can feel safe, can relax, can sleep after the hell that they've been through. And Pamplona and Navarra are points of reference for the whole of Spain and points of reference in the European Union as well. And I have to say that this centre and the other ones that are going to be opening are opening thanks to the Next Generation funds from the European Union. So I'd emphasize that Europe is indispensable in this struggle. It's indispensable in this discussion, but also because of the resources that are being placed in the hands of the autonomous communities and the governments, of course, to implement these things. All the resources made available. So we are impressed. I was very impressed, and we're very grateful for this, and I trust that this initiative can be reproduced in all of the other provinces. There's a case we heard about in Oporrin. A woman found with signs of violence in a container. Can you confirm if that's a case of gender violence or anything else? I can't confirm or deny anything. We heard about that, but at the moment, right now, the police is investigating the case. We have great respect for the police's work. And of course, we are always with the families who are destroyed by that kind of thing. They have our solidarity, but we don't actually know any more about these cases that are being investigated right now. There is a question I'd like to ask about Miranda in Burgos. I don't know if you're acquainted with that. The victim had to come back and make a legal statement. I don't know what's the situation and how you assess it in this case and whether the victim is being further victimized. Well, I'm sorry, I'm not acquainted with that case. Sorry, I'm new in the job, but I respect the division of powers. I respect the judicial authorities. Often these are long proceedings, complex processes, and of course we have to respect the victims. There is legislation in place to provide protection, and I have confidence that in the existing legislation, women can find all the assistance and support they need. Of course, I have every solidarity with the victims and their families, and I respect the legal proceedings. I don't know at what stage of the legal proceedings we're at the moment. Sorry. Well, this is a case where a woman appeared tied up with her hands tied in a hospital and stated that she'd been subjected to violence. She was heard. She made a statement. The man was arrested but then released. He'd previously raped a young woman in 2015. Had to go back and make a statement. So I wanted to know if you'd taken any measures. Well, I have every solidarity with the victim. As long as there hasn't been a judicial decision, I can't make any comment. Thank you.
días. Soy Violeta Molina de la...
I'm Violeta Molina from EFE. I'd like to thank Commissioner Dalli about the negotiations on the directive. How are the negotiations going and what are the points of conflict?
Thank you for your question. Of course, this is a very important proposal for us, and we are counting on the member states to come to an agreement. There are still some sticking points, but I am sure that we've been talking even during this conference on the sidelines individually with member states to try and come to an agreement. It is very important for us that we offer protection to all women in the European Union. And this is a scourge in all our societies. All member states have legislation in this area of policy. Now the European Union is also part to the Istanbul Convention, and yet we still understand, as we've heard about the case mentioned by formerly by the journalist, that really this is a bottomless pit. I've been working in this area all my life, and I have never seen the numbers decrease of victims of women victims of violence and women victims of rape. Now, with regards to rape, this is the major sticking point, I would say, that we are saying that only yes means yes. So that is the issue of consent, okay? So some member states have legislation which needs proof of resistance, of assault, and all that. So what we are saying, no, the only consent is when the woman says yes. And we strongly believe that that is when we can say that women in the European Union are protected from violence. So there are member states who are advanced on this, and there are some member states who are not so progressive in their legislation. And this is our aim, to bring together all member states on an issue which is a very, very, very old issue. And we have not managed to put an end to this horrible reality, as we have heard examples of today. And we would have failed in our work if we do not manage to find agreement on this. I am very hopeful, and I can't say, of course, I am sure, because it still has to happen and we still have a lot of work to do, but Spain is one of our allies in this, and I am very happy to have countries like Spain who are pushing for this legislation to become European Union law. Thank you.
Buenos días. Una pregunta para la ministra Jorge Tirapu de Onda.
I'm from Onda Cero. Question for the minister. 7 victims of perpetrators of violence living with the victims, 33%, and that was an initiative from Barcelona. And I'd like to hear about your concern about these figures. Well, yes, this is an issue that we're concerned about. There is legislation in place, as Commissioner Dalli was saying, legislation providing guarantees, very recent legislation from 2022, only yes means yes, protecting women. And I think what we have to do is implement it and make it clear that we still need resources and efforts to make sure that legislation protecting women is as broad and effective as it can be. We know that the backlog is one of the biggest problems, and we have to establish mechanisms that will strengthen protection and, in particular, protect women against perpetrators who live in the same place as them. There's still a lot of work that needs to be done, moving towards zero violence, but we have resources, but judges are subject to the law. They have to apply the legislation that's in force. They don't have margin for maneuver. They have to apply the legislation that's in force. That's clear in a state of law. The judges apply the legislation, but they interpret the legislation, but they do have to apply the legislation. And we have good legislation in Spain, and we will continue, as I say, developing it, implementing it, and judges are obliged to comply with the law. They're subject to the rule of law.
Sí. Comentaba la comisaria europea.
Could the European Commissioner say something about the role of Spain as a pioneer on only yes means yes? There's a case that happened in Pamplona of the 5 young men who committed a sexual assault during the festival in Pamplona. That led to the promulgation of the law. I don't know if we need more social movements such as the one that came out of that to promote this kind of legislation. You mentioned that there is resistance in some states, and that is essential. We need this social condemnation.
Yes, I already said that Spain is one of the front runners in this area of policy. But yes, we have to do more, because not every member state is like Spain on this issue. So that is why we must promote that no means no, and only yes means yes. Actually, it's more than no means no, but actually yes, only yes means yes. These incidents, continue to happen. We continue to hear these stories, and these stories show us how much more we still need to do. So that is why we are trying to convince all member states to follow in the steps of Spain and have this kind of legislation. But of course, if we can have it European Union-wide, all the better, and that is what we are striving to do. So. To your question, yes, Spain is indeed a front runner in this, and Spain is helping us also with other member states, so that we can find agreement on this legislation. Because what is important is that sometimes it is society which informs legislation. At other times, it is legislation which is informing and changing society. The fact that we are having this debate at the Parliament, we're having the trialogues on this issue, and it's being reported by you journalists, and people read about this reality. We are enhancing our work in promoting and in showing the importance of such legislation. So it will be legislation in this case which will be informing and changing society. Because by speaking about it, by the people listening to the news or reading online about what we are doing, it will bring about the realization of how horrid and how horrific this crime is. And all people who have children, who have daughters, who have sisters, who have mothers, will say, oh, this interests me. It interests all of us, because we know that women are raped, that children are raped, and this is a reality which has been with us since forever. So apart from having, as the minister was saying, giving the judges the lines of which they should follow via the legislation, we are changing society also by showing them that what we have done, speaking of the European Union, what every member state has done is not enough. So we need to do more, and we are upgrading that to European Union level. So this is the discussion. This is what people will now come to understand. Politics is about people. Politics is about people's lives. How are we going to improve those lives? We know that many families are in bad situations because of this scourge of violence. We know that. And we spoke yesterday also about teaching in schools, because in some families, violence is a reality, and children think that that is the reality of life. So if we are teaching them in schools that no, violence should never be accepted, then they will be critical of the lives that they are living in the family where there is this violence. And they will speak about it as well, and they will try to do something to change it. So it is very important also that we work with children to make them understand that violence is never an option, that violence is never acceptable. Of course, they go home and they unlearn what they learned at school, because they continue to see their parents who are violent towards each other, okay? But that's why I say we can never do enough. We can never do enough. So the least we can do is have this European-wide legislation on violence against women. Thank you.
Si no hay más preguntas.
Solamente una cuestión, porque
One question, just one question. What the Commissioner said interests me so much. Yes, sometimes it's society that moves ahead of legislation and pushes legislation. And when we had this group rape by the so-called wolf pack, which was dreadful, that created a wave of feminist indignation that meant there had to be a change. There was so much indignation, so much outrage, and women got together in the street demanding measures of protection. And of course, you can't replace yes means yes. And in the end, Parliament passed the legislation, Act 10 of 2022. So that's legislation that came from the bottom to the top. It came out of this dreadful event, which gave rise to this feminist outrage in the street across the whole of Spain, which led to good legislation, which had to be retouched because legislation, the technique of legislation is sometimes tricky, but it focused on making it clear to women that they ought to say only yes means yes. Minister, Commissioner, thank you very much. We'd now like to conclude the last press conference in the framework of the Spanish Presidency 2023. Thank you.